A Podcask of Amontillado is a horror podcast, and so we may cover subjects that are not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of A Podcask of Amontillado, where we delve into the dark, dreadful, and terrifying parts of the world of Vina Atrocitus. And as the introduction said, welcome back to another episode of A Podcask of Amontillado. I'm your co-host, Gary Mitchell. Joining me, as always, is my lovely co-host.
Erin McGurn, and we are so happy to have John with us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey,
Do your introduction.
for sure. I'm Jon Devlin, former sort of still pro wrestler, actor, and currently a director now, apparently. So yeah, that's about it.
Cool. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I met you through Dave at DragonCon for the Whose F Is It Anyway?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
used to write for Needless Things way back
hmm
in the day.
Back in the day. All right. So we are discussing today making horror movies, what it's like, both now, since you are both actor, director, and have done things. So let's first off, where would people have seen you? Like, I've seen you in Joe Striker, and you have your
Yeah.
new short.
I'm also in Mother News Presents Once Upon a Nightmare from a
hmm
Buckshort Productions. I was in Amazon Hotbox from James Bickert. Been in several short films, DJ Slade being one of them. Ritual from Martyr Films down in Waycross, Georgia. Yeah, you might could see me in a Lifetime movie trailer for a second. That's a weird thing. Uh, but yeah, I usually stick to like indie productions. Obviously, they don't pay as well,
Mm.
but they're a lot more fun, and you know, it's easier for me to do stuff like that. I don't want to do the whole extra gig, just jumping from big productions and
hmm
struggling to get by.
Yeah. I was security guard number 2 on an episode of NCIS kind of
Nice.
thing. All right. So, how did you get started? What made you decide that you wanted to get into making horror films?
Well, first of all, I've always loved horror movies.
hmm
It was weird because I didn't get to watch them as much when I was a kid, but I'd always see the trailers. So
hmm
I was a preacher's kid, so I
I
was
feel
raised very
that.
wholesome, and a lot of stuff I was sheltered from. So, but I would see the trailers for Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that, and I was just always drawn to that kind of stuff for whatever reason. Even though I was, I guess because they told me I couldn't watch it, maybe.
There you
Uh,
go.
but as soon as I got started watching, Friday 13th coming on TV and stuff like that, I was just immediately addicted. Never really scared me. It was, I don't
hmm
know, it was just interesting me more than anything. But I always loved it. I got a job working at Blockbuster as soon as I got out of high school. So then I was exposed to even deeper things than, the mainstream horror stuff. Uh, but I never thought I could make it
hmm
any kind of way. I didn't know how to get in the industry at the time. So I was like, I always wanted to be a pro wrestler too, and a rock star. So I ended up doing both of those things first. The
hmm
the rock star thing didn't work out at all. That was very short lived. And then the wrestling thing, that kept me going for like 15 years. And then
Okay.
I was like, well, I'm getting kind of old now, and I'm kind of burnt out just traveling all the time on the road. And Nathan Hamilton, the son of Celluloid, he actually was recruited by Jamie Bickert to get some stunt guys that can do a fight scene on Amazon Hotbox, which is how I got my foot in the door, sort of.
Okay.
So we went out there and choreographed that fight, me and Marco Polo, another wrestler friend of mine, and that was the beginning of it. And then I was just like, "This is my out from wrestling.
hmm
I'm going in this direction now." And then I started making connections, from there, and people saw that I had the drive, and I would show up and be on time and do the work, and I just kept getting booked.
Okay. Yeah, it's amazing how showing up is like at least 70 to 80%
Yep.
of getting
Yeah,
there.
people love people that show up.
Yeah. Um, so you started with, and shout out to Son of Celluloid, great guy, great show.
Yeah,
Um, so you started with the Amazon Hotbox and
yeah.
moved into it. What made you then decide to go, okay, I'm going to direct one? Is it you got the idea and you're like,
Ooh.
well, I got to make this because nobody else is, or?
Well, it's kind of like it's like one of those bucket list things, you know. It's like, oh, I
Mhm.
want to write a comic book. I want to, you know, be a be in a band at least. So I've done
Mhm.
everything that I kind of wanted to do to some extent. Those it wasn't as successful as I hoped I would have been in any of them, but I was like, well, you know, you only live once. Just do everything you want to do. And it actually was the pandemic that triggered the uh, the jump to starting to direct something because we were all just locked down sitting at the house. And Roger Corman actually put out some kind of pandemic film festival contest. And
Hmm.
it's like, you know, just shoot a film on your phone, 2 minutes, just something pandemic related. So that was my first thing I did, just shooting in my house. You know, my roommate was in the production and it was just really short, really simple. And then I entered another contest with a little bit more lax rules, and that was about maybe 10 minutes. I turned it into a
Mhm.
silent film about you know the situation, and people seemed to like it. It was pretty funny, and then you know I got the hang of like how the scenes go together in editing and putting in the music. I designed the poster. You know, it was like a one man show. I wrote this. I didn't even have a script really. I had like bullet points, and because there's no dialogue, so I just walked through the whole thing in my house. I used a tripod. I filmed it myself. I did everything. So, and it turned out really good. So, uh, they had the FrankenCon
Mhm.
festival with Richard Buell, I think you know, and they were pitching a Frankenstein inspired film festival. I think it was 6 minutes or less. Had
Mhm.
all these little rules that you had to follow for to be submitted. And I was tossing around some ideas. I was like, I don't know. I just got an itch. I wanted to do it. It's like, this seems like a good opportunity to keep the directing thing going. It'd been like a year or
Mhm.
so since I did the last one, and I was kind of like in a lag. I didn't really have any acting parts. Everything keeps getting postponed because everybody, you know,
Mhm.
there's sickness and stuff. And so I just came up with some ideas with my tag team partner who's in the film, Johnny
Mhm.
Danger, and came up with a script. I sat down and wrote that thing in like 20, 30 minutes. Like
Mhm.
it was like one draft. I just typed it up on my phone. I was like, I think this is good. Let's go. Hopefully I can get somebody to be in it. That was my main concern is like, can I actually get somebody to perform for me? And I
Mhm.
was fortunate enough to be able to find people that were great and pulled it off.
All right. And why don't you just give any people a taste of, okay, so it's called Erecting a Monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
real
yeah,
brief, 6 minutes, you said.
here's actually the award I won at FrankenCon.
Oh,
So there's the
nice.
movie poster. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They give you like this VHS tape or whatever.
That's
I
awesome.
got curious about what was inside. It's actually Arlington Road on VHS. I was like,
Just
"Whoa, did they put my short film on a VHS? That's awesome!" And
somebody
no,
went to Goodwill.
it's Arlington Road, but it's still, I mean, it's super cool.
Oh, yeah.
When I started this, I didn't expect to win anything. I was just like, I'm gonna enter it, and I was like so nervous. I was like, people are gonna, you know, crap all over it.
Mm,
That's the thing about being artistic and stuff and putting things out that you come up with is you're afraid of the reaction you're going to get because you want people to
right.
like it, you know, and you don't make it, you kind of make it for yourself, you know. I really did make it for myself, but I want to
Hmm.
show people what I did, and I want them to accept it and appreciate it and like it. But there's always the nerves that come. Is like I was like really nervous as soon as they were about to play it at the con, but yeah,
Yeah.
so it's how do I explain this without getting, I don't know how, is this an R-rated podcast?
We are R-rated. We are listed
Okay,
at, we do have an explicit tag. So.
okay. So, basically, it's a guy who has erectile dysfunction, and
Hmm.
because I had to make it Frankenstein inspired, my first idea was to like electrocute my penis, and
Hmm.
which does come into play somewhere in the film. That's why I
Hmm.
put that scene in there. But and Johnny had mentioned getting like some boner pills off wish.com that are like
Hmm.
Chinese experimental stuff. So that was where that came in, the gas station boner pills. Uh, but yeah, so I ended up seeing a witch. I don't even know how. Actually, I had a friend who was a witch or does like a witch cosplay at Days of the Dead, and that
Hmm.
was what got the ball rolling on that. And she was unable to do the part at the last minute because she had like a personal emergency.
Mm.
So that was this is my first time working with like other people that I'm
Hmm.
having to cast. So I'm getting like all the things that can go wrong on the way are happening, just having to change locations last minute and actors. And, fortunately, I was able to get Scarra Slayfield at the
Hmm.
last minute, and she did great. And yes, so the witch gives me a potion that fixes my problem, and it also causes another problem,
Mm.
which is actually right there behind me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's usually how it goes when you play with a witch.
Yeah.
yeah. It is a fun little short. It definitely has the
Mhm.
right tone. I can see why it won the awards because it has its tongue firmly in cheek.
Hmm.
And it's solid performances. No, I mean you're the guest. I'm not trying to suck up to you, but I'm saying no, it was actually really good stuff. And is there a way in the future that people will be able to see it? Do you have a distribution thing coming, or is it going to be
uh,
kind of like one of those you had to be there things?
No, I'm actually circulating it through some other festivals. Like it just played the Severed Films Film Festival from
Hmm.
Without Your Head podcast. They
Okay.
do an online film festival on YouTube, so it played there. It was like a weekend thing. They put streamed it live and left it up for the weekend. Took it down, and I won several awards there. I was like shocked, and I had the Mother News trailer
Hmm.
was in there for the feature film I was in. That won 2 awards, and another short I was in, Ritual, won a few awards too. So there's a few I was like first and second place on. I was like, this is just weird, uh, because I never expected to get any kind of success out of it. It was just something
Hmm.
silly and fun that I threw together, and spent money on. Which I was fortunate enough to get some of that back. I had a friend, Jon Mercer, who came on as a producer, and he knew what I
Mm.
was doing, and he's just like, I want to be a part of this, and he's like, I'm going to help you out, buddy. So I was like fortunate. Thank you, Jon Mercer, for
Yes.
helping me out there and finance this thing, because it gets expensive even for like a six
Mhm.
minute short. It just costs so much money. You got to feed if you're doing it right, take care of your people, you got to feed them and
Oh
everything,
yeah.
get props and all this stuff. So yeah, it was something.
And that is quite the impressive member prop there behind you.
Yeah, do you want a better look at it?
Sure.
Well, your
For the
your
Patreons.
podcast your podcast listeners can't see it, but this is it's a bonus if you sign up for the Patreon. You get to see it actually has a face there, which we didn't
Oh
actually
Oh
get.
wow.
my gosh.
Uh, and of course, we got tubing coming out the backside for we
Hmm.
pump the blood through the mouth.
Right.
Uh, but if all goes well, you heard it here first. If all goes well, this will show up again,
Oh,
because I'm making
nice.
I'm making plans.
Well, a prop like that you don't just use once.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of people that watched it, they're just like, I just wanted it to keep going, though. I wanted to see like a whole feature film of this. So I was like, I don't know if I have enough material for hour and a half movie, but I might can do a couple sequels,
There you go.
just little short sequels. So the gears are turning. So I got that in motion, I think.
Okay, cool.
And
So,
Sierra, my friend
oh,
Sierra Ray actually built that prop. She
nice.
she did a great job.
Right. Aaron, you got any questions?
So, you talked a little bit about it was kind of pandemic related. I mean, I personally can relate to that with the fuck it, we're in a pandemic. I'm going to change my life or do something that
Yeah.
is a bucket list item. What advice would you give somebody else who wants to get into the industry or even like wants to shoot a video on their phone and doesn't know how to get in touch with actors or doesn't know any prop makers, things like that. Like somebody who's coming in blind.
Okay.
What advice would you give them?
Well, the advice everyone has given me before I started any kind of entertainment, like wrestling, music, film, if you're trying to make money, don't do it.
No.
Because it's not the place to make, and it's a top tier group that gets to
Mhm.
make the money, and we're all struggling down here at the bottom. But if you're just passionate about art and film and just want to make your own thing, everybody has a cell phone, I'm pretty sure. So that's the first step. You don't have an excuse of why you can't film something that has audio. You can act yourself. Like I wrote everything and acted in my own film. I did everything myself. You just got to use your imagination and try to write something that's within your means, your
Mhm.
limitations. Don't write a galactic space battle if you can't afford to shoot it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Just see what you have around you and just start coming up with stories to fill those spaces and those people that you know. And you can always get your friends to get on board. The problem with the indie films is a lot of times you can't pay, or you can't pay much.
Mhm.
And so when you're in a situation like that, especially if you're not paying, there people are become less reliable, because
Mhm.
they're doing you a favor, kind of. uh it could be seen either way. It depends on what they're trying to do with their life. If they're not interested in becoming an actor and they're just helping you out, it becomes less reliable sometimes. But and plus you have just personal situations that come up.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of troubleshooting. But if you're willing to deal with that amount of stress, and you know just put the work in, you can do it.
What was the biggest thing that surprised you when you started doing this? Is like, oh, I didn't expect this to either be a benefit or a problem. What was the thing that like popped you that you're like, whoa, okay.
I tell you that that last scene
Mhm.
was the biggest surprise, because I had it in my head a certain way, and I was like, I don't know if I can get anybody to do this.
Mhm.
And so I was struggling. I was like, I'm willing to compromise, and do it a different way. I just want people to be comfortable. I don't want to put
Right.
anybody in situations they're not comfortable in.
Mhm.
But the biggest surprise, that I was able to find someone who was, liked what I had written and was open to doing something like that. And she was great. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
besides that scene, she was just great as playing that character. And her reactions were great in the finale.
Mhm.
I thought she just did an excellent job, and she doesn't even live here. I actually reached out to several people before I got to her.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, you tell them what you want, kind of. It's always an awkward conversation when you're
Yeah.
asking for stuff. uh but you try to be cool about it, and not be too
Mhm.
weird. Uh, and a lot of people turned it down just for various reasons, not being
Mhm.
jerks or anything. They're just either not comfortable, or they don't think it's for them, the a role for them.
Mhm.
And she lived all the way across the other side of the country, so she wasn't even on my radar to
Oh
begin
wow.
with. But I'd known her for a few years now. She was also an Amazon hotbox.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, it actually worked out pretty well.
We kind of talked about the advice you would give to somebody who's kind of starting. I agree with the definite. I've heard as well the you have to do it because you love it.
Yeah.
You can't do it with the idea of I'm going to become famous and all this.
Mhm.
And within your within what you can do, I remember hearing that many times. So what is it about horror and a horror movie that is just you said earlier that you grew up with them, you loved watching them, so you just wanted to make one of your own. And I mean, what draws you to doing more horror?
That's I just have a dark creative spirit. I
Mhm.
don't
Mhm.
know. It's whenever, because I wrote in high school. Everything was dark. Everything was horror. Uh, it's hard for me to write happy, nice things.
Mhm.
Like I grew up listening to death metal, and I got into Marilyn Manson in high school, and I don't know. As soon as I kind of disconnected from how I was raised, it was just the cuffs are off, and I'm just doing this. I'm wearing all black, I'm listening to metal. I'm watching bloodbaths on TV, And I went through a spell where I'm just, let me watch the most extreme stuff I can find, which, there's a
Mhm.
place for that. But I like to have a little bit of story.
Mhm.
The story's more important to me than the gore. But if you can fit that nasty gore in, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure what it is specifically that sent me down that route.
You mentioned, that that final scene didn't quite go the way that you planned. Is there anything else in your filming that
Uh,
didn't go the way you scripted or had in
Well,
mind, and, like,
actually, the
how did
final
you
scene went almost exactly like I planned. I was
Oh,
scared
did
that it
it?
wouldn't go. I was scared that I was
Oh,
gonna have to
okay, okay.
compromise. Of course, like writing it down, like the imagery in my head is
Mhm.
way further out there than what I actually filmed.
Mhm.
But then you're getting to a place where maybe you shouldn't film some of that stuff. Uh, but Yeah,
So,
the
did
the witch
anything not
scene
go to plan?
the witch scene didn't go as planned. I like the way it turned out, but that wasn't the original plan.
Mm.
Because if you think it's weird that there's a witch running out of a garage, it's because that wasn't the plan.
I did think that was peculiar.
And I was going to add a little bit more to that. Like, there's a sign on the side of the road, creepy sign pointing through the woods, and I'm like crawling through the sticks, like trying to find this witch in the wood. And I come out at the other side. I'm in the suburbs, and I'm
Mhm.
like, what in the world? So I just thought I was like, I had to
That's a good
figure,
gag.
I had to find a comical way to fix the problem. So
Mm.
that's and I had to use what I had available. So,
Mhm.
I dressed the garage with things that I had and made like a little witch's shop, and that was it. Printed out some signs and threw them on the door, and that was it.
I mean, it's the modern day way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a comedy. It's a horror comedy.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
It was so ridiculous. I was like, it doesn't matter. She's in the garage.
I got my demon pills off Etsy because that's handmade. Ah. You've done a few now. You mentioned Mother News. You're making your own. What's your favorite thing about making a horror film? Is it the writing, the creating, the filming, or seeing people react after? Or is it kind of like a melange?
I hate the writing.
Uh huh.
I really hate the writing part. Just it's hard for me to sit down and do it. Like I have
Hmm.
ideas all day, but just to sit down and just write it out, which this was a short film, so that was a lot easier. Just, I'm just typing it up on my phone while I'm sitting there and with the TV in the background. Uh, the writing is definitely not my favorite part. Coming up with ideas is fun.
Mhm.
Uh, and the filming of it is rough some days. You're there for a long time, and sometimes you just want to go home, but you got
Mhm.
to
Hmm.
go. You got to keep doing it. Especially when you're in conditions where it's like freezing cold or super hot, which I've been in both for 16 hours at a time, sometimes with no clothes on. Uh, it's pretty rough, uh, but it's also fun. I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love it.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's a weird kind of, I guess, masochistic type of thing. I don't know, but my favorite part is just when you're getting really good in the character and things are just going super well and everybody's just having a good time behind the scenes because they know they're making something that's worthwhile. That's the best part. Just having that camaraderie on set when everybody's like clicking together and you're doing
Mhm.
Hmm.
something well. You know.
Yeah, because I've done some stage acting like way, way back in the day, and you're right. There is that you can feel that groove when it clicks in, and everybody is like on that same wavelength, and there is a high there.
Yeah.
Um, so of the parts you've done, what's the favorite one that you've done?
The I I'm leaning toward the part in Ritual where I was the cult leader.
Hmm.
Just because I just went ham on it, I was just a nasty, greasy dude. That was just a lot of fun to play, and I was scaring some of the actresses, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want the
Mhm.
people you're working with to kind of feel what you're doing, and not just you know just talking, speaking lines back to each other. Y'all wanted to be this guy, and I think I pulled that off pretty well, and people tell me I did. So
Hmm.
that's mostly what I base it on. The Joe Stryker character I really loved to play, the Dominic Valencia, because he was just ruthless, and I love those kind of movies too. Those
Hmm.
villains, it's kind of cliche type of action villains, but it was so much fun, especially the finale with the crazy
Yeah.
stuff going on. That was a lot of fun to do.
One of the things I've also really like admire about you as a guy, just as a normal air quotes, is being Facebook friends with you, is seeing that you are actually really into indie and out there films. Like you're constantly watching some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen. Uh, so like what's been a recent discovery that you were like, oh, well, you like, oh, I expect this to be good, but oh my God, this is really good, or something you've stumbled across?
Oh my God, there was one the other day, and I can't even remember the name of it. Doesn't that always happen?
Hmm.
Mhm.
uh, God, it's on the tip of my tongue too. because I was like, "Oh, this is so great." Actually, I tell you what, this is not horror, surprisingly, but I
Mm.
came across this Bollywood movie called RRR,
I
Oh
love
yeah,
and
I've
I was just
heard.
Bollywood.
blown away. I was like, "This is amazing." But horror wise, I really liked Men.
Mm.
That was a very divisive film, and I kind of went in expecting not to like it just because of what I heard.
Mhm.
Uh, but I was like, man, this is awesome. Just the way they did with the same guy playing all the character. I don't know if you guys saw. I don't
That
want to
was the
spoil
thing
it.
alone with that movie that I was like, he just played like 15 different people,
Yeah, it took me a
and you
minute to
could
even figure out it was the same
obviously
guy.
tell that it was different people. Like, it was so good.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one shocked me how good that was.
Yeah. Well,
And
I
like I said,
love
it's
that
divisive.
director. Oh yeah,
Yes,
very.
yes,
Yeah, the Ex Machina that was, I was like, I fell in love with that movie by him, and so it was like, it like you said, it's very divisive, but the fact that they went for it and that they went there is like,
oh yeah,
yeah, I would much rather personally have a movie that tries to do something like that and fail than
Mhm.
just some middle of the road. Oh, here's another, Jason ripoff,
yeah.
with no imagination in it.
I'll tell you another one that I remember what it was. It was
Ah,
Necrophiles from Visual Vengeance put it out recently on Blu-ray. It's called Necrophiles. It's shot on video and is just absolutely insane. And it kind of reminds me of the film that I made a little bit
mm,
because there's a big wiener.
mm.
There's a big zombie wiener, and there's a flying baby zombie.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
just
Oh.
batshit insane. I mean, it's super low budget. They're using it's obviously a baby doll that
Hmm.
they've put paint on, and they're like flying it through the air to eat people. But I mean, it's just crazy and wacky and fun.
Oh gosh, I need to look up the name of one real quick because you just made me think of that with the baby doll.
Mm.
Um, so where do you watch the indie films? Like, how do you learn about them?
I buy them. Yeah, because I like this collection just goes on for a little bit down there, and there's some
Mhm.
scattered other places. It's out
Like
of control.
eBay or it.
Well, I follow a lot of indie production companies,
Mhm,
and some of them I learned about from what I do. Making connections, and they're like, "Oh, have you heard about this guy?" And it's like, "Okay, well, you got Sleazebox down in Florida, or you got A&P
Mhm,
over in California." Plus, uh, we had Mother News premiere in Virginia at the
mhm,
Grindsploitation Film Festival, and there's playing indie films all through there, uh, and the directors are on site. So there's indie film festivals to go to. If you're into film festivals, go check out some weird stuff. And there's online ones too, like the Severed Limbs Film Festival. A lot of short films. They do some feature films sometimes. I think they do 2 or 3 a year of those
Oh,
okay,
okay,
festivals,
that's
free
great.
streaming on YouTube.
That's awesome.
cool.
Uh, the movie, if you haven't seen it, Benny Loves You.
I've been wanting to see that. Yeah.
It's so good, and, like, the one guy did everything from, like, motion capture to script to filming, and, like, it's all about him and this stuffed animal that's his stuffed animal, and
Wow,
it turns into a killer.
that's
Like,
crazy.
it it's pretty amazing, and,
Was
like
it Benny Loves You?
yep.
Okay,
But, yeah, that's one that definitely check it out if you get the chance.
awesome. Will do for sure.
Mhm. So you mentioned going to the film festivals and the horror conventions, that kind of thing. That's a good place to make the connections. Would you say that the dealers there are people should support, or should you be more directly going to the suppliers and the distributors and going, "Hey, you're here with your movie. Where can I give you money?"
Yeah, like if you're at a convention, a lot of the indie people are there with their table
Hmm.
selling their stuff. So I mean, you're buying directly from the filmmaker. Buckshort Productions had
Hmm.
Mother Noose at Days of the Dead, and so you can meet us who worked on the film, and we can sign it for you right there. And it's pretty good gig if you're already going to be at a festival or a convention like that. But most of them also have websites. They'll give you
Hmm.
cards. Uh, I think it's probably better to buy from the filmmakers than from like Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, because the cut
Uh,
of
yeah, And then, a lot of people get their stuff like Amazon hot boxes on Tubi right now. You can watch it for free, but I don't know how
Hmm.
much money Jimmy's getting out of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he did the Indiegogo, and then
Hmm.
he's sold some on Amazon, and now after it goes to like a few cycles, then it ends up on Tubi.
Right.
Kind of like
Yeah, I
we made all
remember
the
I
money we're gonna
backed.
make.
Yeah, I remember I backed Frankenstein created bikers back in the day. So people still, I think, are, like you said, are using Indiegogo
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
yeah,
Kickstarter and that sort
Kickstarter.
of thing. Um, we've talked about this a few times on the show that a lot of people seem to assume that horror is easy to make. That all you need to do is grab a woman who's willing to run around with her top off and some fake blood, and you're good to go. And obviously not.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is what draws people to that, and what does it take to make a good horror movie for you as a creator?
To me, and it's weird because I'm not really, I don't find myself to be a comedian, so it's kind of
Mhm.
weird that I wrote a horror comedy. But to me, I personally like the darker stuff, like and even like the art house stuff. But to
Mhm.
me, like a good horror movie is when you're doing something that's unique and you're not relying on the usual tropes, and set more of I'm more into atmospheric stuff, like set a
Mhm.
tone for your film,
Mhm.
as opposed to just boobs and blood. Uh,
Mhm.
you can do boobs and blood, and I'll watch that. I'm fine with that. I like that. But it'll always be kind of lower tier for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
There's something like The Witch, or something like that. But
That is such an underrated movie and is
oh
so
yeah,
good.
for sure. But to me, like just quality horror is just being unique and telling a good story as opposed to just finding excuses to have blood and nudity.
Mhm. And as the director or writer, what's the best way to create and maintain tone while filming? Is it, do you have to get everybody kind of on the same page, or what? How does that play? Or is that what the director is for? Or
Yeah, well, I've been on sets like I just filmed Gracie with the Wages of Sin guys out in Augusta, Georgia,
Mhm.
and this they actually have a script supervisor that checks continuity and positions of everybody, kind of lets everybody know what the vibe of the scene's going to be. Uh, Usually, I always know my lines when I go in. A
Mhm.
lot of people don't. They're just kind of
Mm.
Mhm.
figure it out while they're there. It's like they come in, they don't know their lines. But I always know my lines, and I always prepare for what kind of mood I need to be in. It kind of gets weird when you shoot out of order, so
Mhm.
you're for the actor it's more difficult because you're jumping around in your emotions
Mhm.
the whole time, and it's easy to lose your place of what you're supposed to feel. As opposed to if you shoot in sequence, you're going the path that your character's going, and that journey that they go on. Uh, but yeah, it's I would say the director and the actor would control that vibe. Like if the actor's not with it, the director's got to step in and be like, "Hey, this is what you need to do."
Mhm.
Aaron, you got another question?
I have one that I'm thinking of, but I need a minute to, like, actually
Okay.
form it into a question.
We'll trim this. Patreons will only be. But in that case, then, do you prefer, since you know your lines, and obviously everybody should know their lines,
Yeah.
but do you prefer a director or a job where it's like, come in, do your lines, or do you prefer where like, okay, let's do one take with the lines, and now, okay, now let's play with it, let's improv a little, or does it just depend on the shoot?
It depends on the shoot, but like on my script, Johnny he's got really good comedic timing. So I
Hmm.
wrote his lines, but then I'm like, when we get to set, I'm just like, you could, if you feel like you could say something funnier, do it.
Hmm.
And he did. He changed them a little bit, not like a ton, but as long as you don't change, I don't like to change my lines
Hmm.
because it starts to mess up with how you end up editing and stuff doesn't match up, you know, the way it
Okay.
should if you go too far off script.
Hmm.
So I just like to stick to my lines, but some people are just really good, witty, and improvisational, and sometimes they come up with really good material that you might miss out on if you handcuff them with the dialogue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to say your short has one of the funniest awkward pauses I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Yeah, he pulled that off great. Like I wrote the pause, and that was my line and everything, but his delivery of the reaction was great.
Hmm.
So that actually helps feed into my question. You talked about it a tiny bit in the beginning, and then you just mentioned it again with editing,
Mhm.
and that's something that you did.
Yeah.
Like, in my own head, that to me would be the hardest part of it all. Like, is is that the case? Was it the hardest
It's
part for you, or, like, super difficult, or was it just like, "No, just sit down and weed through it?"
it's tedious. I wouldn't say it's
Mhm,
hard. It's just a tedious process when you have, luckily this was a short film. So like if I had to edit like a feature film, I'd probably be really overwhelmed and have to take a break. But I don't know. I'm really lazy, but when I get
Hmm.
in the mindset to do something, then I'm just like
mhm,
I go 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 go. So like when I sat down to edit, I think I did the first run in like one night, of that
Hmm.
of the first draft, and I had to change it a little bit after that. And I did one cut for the festival, and then I did another cut for another festival that was a little longer. Added another scene in, made the credits longer. Uh, but I don't editing comes pretty easy to me for some reason. Like I taught myself how to edit because I wanted to do a music video for my tag team. So I took all the footage, from us
Hmm.
wrestling, and just in one night, just took a crash course on YouTube how to work this program, and I threw a music video together that was pretty good. And then I was like, well, I could start editing YouTube videos. I'm gonna review movies, and so I started doing that. And those aren't like super stylized or anything, but
mhm,
I got an intro and outro and cuts and all that stuff. Uh, but yeah, then I started doing monologues, and I would edit those. I'd do green screen, all kinds of stuff. So just sitting around just fooling with things. I mean, anything you want to learn is pretty much free on the internet, so there's no excuse not to learn it,
mhm.
unless
What
you
do
just
you
don't want to.
use for editing?
When I first started, I was using a program called Hit Film Express because it was a free
Mhm,
program, and I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't want to spend money to fail. So I was like, I'll just practice on this free thing, and I use it. I mean, it's simple and basic, and it was good for what I was doing at the time. When I started on this film, I upgraded to Premiere Pro, which was a little bit. It was
mhm,
kind of the same, but it was a little bit of a learning curve. Some things were a lot different. So it took me a minute to get into that, but there's a lot more you can do with it too. So it's a pretty good program.
Would you recommend then that if someone really wants to do this, would you say that they should just try and do something on their own by themselves, or should they look for a local film group, community, horror production, whatever, and start going, "Hey, here's what I've got. Here's what I can do," or can I intern, or
Yeah. I would say like, you mean like for directing or acting or both?
either,
Yeah.
any of it.
uh Acting wise, there's groups on Facebook and stuff for indie film casting and stuff like that. Or you can follow if you can find a local, like a Buckshort Productions, or
Hmm.
Shit Stack Productions. uh if you can find somebody like that, to follow them and see when they're starting to work, because they'll put out a casting call if they need somebody. And if you're just starting out, you probably don't have a reel. So what I did, before I actually had footage to show, was I just started filming the monologues. So, I do different
Hmm.
characters. I do the Joker. I do Mickey from Natural Born Killers. And just do monologues, and dress up and do the whole deal. And just put a video together of that to send people, to show that I have some range to do other things besides be myself. Directing wise, that's basically, you could just start on your own. Uh,
Hmm.
it's good to network and find other people, because everybody can help each other. But you know, if you got a phone and you got people that are willing to have fun with you, and you got stories, you could do it.
Okay. Um, yeah, and like there's also a few books, like the one that I always think of is yeah, he's like his book, Make Your Own Damn Movie.
Yeah,
uh-huh,
It-
yeah, I
you know,
bought those actually, and produce your own damn movie.
yes. Uh, the other one that always stuck with me that fits in kind of with what you're saying is I saw an interview with Dana Gould one time, and he was like, write your own job. Like if you
Mhm.
want to be an actor, write a role for yourself. Direct the movie yourself, become your own producer,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Would you say that's like the harder part, or the harder trying to get everything together, or just trying to get it out once it's made?
Well, the organizing part's definitely difficult. Just finding the people and
Mhm.
lining up everybody's time and location is the most difficult part. Uh, Getting it out is, you got all kinds of resources to get it out when you're done. I'm probably going to put this on YouTube once it's done all the festivals,
Hmm.
or Vimeo or something like that. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
pretty good.
that was kind of my question there too. Is like, I know YouTube does sometimes have like restrictions on what you can put up there, or
Yeah.
like they won't let you monetize certain things if it has nudity, for example. Sometimes they have issues with that. So would you say Vimeo? You should try to get both Tubi or Tubi, YouTube or Vimeo, or
Yeah, because I mean, you could put a paywall on Vimeo and
hmm
charge people to watch your content. I probably won't. I don't. Maybe I will. I don't know. But I don't. I wouldn't know what to charge for a 6 7 minute film. Uh, but YouTube.
Nobody's gonna think about paying you $1.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah,
they
put
might.
it at $1.
They might. Sometimes it's hard to get them to watch it to begin with.
Ugh.
yeah.
So you start asking for money, then they're like, "Well, no, I got all these movies on Tubi I can watch for free, or I got Netflix already." So that's the struggle of the indie guys is like trying to
Yeah.
get people to pay attention to them when they got all these other distractions. Uh, but YouTube, I believe, as long as I could be wrong here, but as long as
Hmm.
you flag it as adults only or
Mhm.
inappropriate for minors, I don't know that I don't think you can monetize it, but you can put it up as long as you have to have an adult sign in or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, which I've
and
already settled
sometimes
on
like
them. What's that?
I say, and like you said, sometimes the victory is just getting somebody to put their eyeballs on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm more worried about just people seeing it than making any money. I've already settled. I'm not probably gonna make any money off this. So, I just want people to see it, and the benefit of that is if they think I'm have any kind of talent or anything, then they might find people that want to help me make more stuff.
Mhm.
So
Or
that's
they
kind of
might be willing to pay that $1, $2, $3 next time.
yeah, exactly. You know,
So
it's kind of like when you're just like when you're wrestling, like you come in your first match and you expect to get a $500 fee. Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
They're not gonna pay you at all. You're not putting
Look, you're
bucks
just
on
lucky we let you in the ring.
yeah.
So what is it that keeps you motivated? Like, we talked a little bit about how difficult the scheduling can be and finding people for roles and things along those lines, and then the work and the effort you personally put into it.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a monetary thing yet.
Yeah.
So, what is it when you're sitting up at 3 a.m. editing the cuts that keeps you going?
It's an unexplainable drive. It's just I'm just driven to create things. I'm just my thing this week is I'm making movie posters. And
Hmm.
I'm just on a kick, and I'm not getting anything out of it. I just have fun doing it. Uh, I
Yeah, you were making
that's
some very cool posters.
thank you.
Yeah, I love the one you did for The Thing and The Evil Dead. Those were
Awesome.
very nice.
Yeah, I got plenty more coming because I just can't sit still. Uh, but yeah, if I'm not doing that, I'm doing something else. I might do photography one day. Just I got all these little different creative outlets that I go down. Uh, but I am lazy. I do like to just sit on my ass and watch movies, and I do a lot of that too.
There's a time
But
and a place.
yeah, but every once in a while, I'm just like I gotta get up and make something.
Mhm.
Just
Hmm.
the urge just comes over me, and I can't stop myself.
The drive of most serial killers as well, shall we say?
Yeah.
No, it's the drive that keeps places like Michael's and Joann's in business.
Yes.
Believe me, I understand that one.
So once someone has completed their project, they've made their damn movie, they've got it put together. What's the best way you think for them to get those eyeballs on it? Should they approach a distributor? Should they go to conventions, look for film festivals, scream on the online at the top of their lungs? or is it kind of like all of it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all of it. Sometimes I feel like I'm being too spammy when I'm like
Hmm.
advertising my stuff, but it's like, how, I mean, how else do you get people to pay attention to what you're doing? Just posting, and not everybody's online every day and looking at your
Mhm.
feed, so you got to post for the people that missed it. And I feel weird about it. I don't really like doing it, but at the same time, you want people to see what you're doing. So, uh, there's free advertisement for everybody as far as social media goes. If you're willing to, sit there on your phone and spam everybody every day. Uh,
Hmm.
and then, there's free festivals, like Severed Limbs was free to submit to, and they're a pretty cool group, and put out a lot of up and coming indie filmmakers. They gave me my first shot when I did the silent film during the pandemic.
Hmm.
They put that in their festival. So there's definitely free ways to get out there, but I'm finding it's very expensive to submit to festivals. I'm submitting my
Mm.
short to. I got like a long list of things I keep checking, even though the due date isn't for another couple months, and I know that, but I keep looking anyway to see if anything's changed. It's like, but I think from what I've heard, I should expect to get rejected from almost everyone. So
Mm.
far, I've only been rejected once and approved twice, so that's a good show so
That's
far.
good odds.
Uh, but yeah, I'm not getting my hopes up for later. But yeah, you gotta be ready for disappointment if
Mhm.
if you're doing stuff like that. And I was, I've talked to enough people to know that that's kind of the usual gig. There's so many people submitting, and there's only so many spots. So unless
Mhm.
you're making a stellar product, you're probably not going to make it. But that's the way that people can watch it, and you might get lucky and get through. Of course, you always have YouTube, or
Yeah.
if it's not R-rated, then maybe Facebook can let you post a video. Like I think our film Rituals on Facebook to watch for free.
Okay.
So that not making money, but you're getting eyes.
Mhm.
When you got into this and have been doing it, and obviously you're going to keep doing it because it seems like you're enjoying it.
Oh yeah.
What I feel like I've already asked this, but the most rewarding part, once it's all done, once it's all out there, people have seen it. Do you kind of like go back and rewatch it? Do you just kind of revisit it to go, oh, I could have done this better, I could have, or do you go, no, it's done, it's in the past, I'm going forward, and
Well, while I'm editing it is when I say I should have done this better.
mm,
So I'm already there before I even have a finished project. I'm like, how do we make this work? And I got to change this, and so it's already to that point by the time I'm finished. Uh, but oh, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
once it's done, do you just move on to the next project, or does it kind of haunt you in the background, or do you just use that as a building? Like, okay, I did this
Yeah.
didn't work out, but if I did it this way,
Um,
because it seems like filmmakers, from what I've seen, are either chuck it, it's behind me and it's done, I don't go back,
Mhm.
or it's the
yeah.
continually obsessing over, the Lucas syndrome of you keep noodling
Yeah.
with it and noodling with it, and
I mean, there are things that I wanted to do with it that I didn't get to do. Like there was another
Mhm.
scene I wanted to film in a porn shop that I could have done it, but it was too much of a hassle and wouldn't have fit the time frame that I had the first go around. I could do it now, but I'm keep thinking maybe I should go back and do that scene and put it in before I put it up on YouTube. But it's like, do I really need it? I don't know. So I mean, it does kind of haunt you a little bit. Things you might want to change or whatever, but I'm just based on the reactions people have had to it,
Mhm.
I'm happy with it. Uh, if I could make it better, it wouldn't be a whole lot better. So I kind of just want to move on to the next thing. I mean, of course, some people just like make the thing, put it out, and they're on to the next thing, and don't even talk about
Mhm.
the other thing anymore.
Mhm.
But to me, I mean, you got to kind of promote what you did, because everybody's going to forget about it.
Mhm.
And some people aren't even going to see it because you've already moved on from it. It was like, what was the point of making it? Now it's you know in the trash, basically. uh, but yeah, I mean, I'm a carny due to the wrestling, so I'm all about promotion and putting the stuff out there. So you put in the work for. I think it took me like a month to make that thing, and so I'm gonna promote it until I'm ready to start the next project, and then it'll be time for that.
Okay. And who do you look up to or who inspires you of like indie or mainline horror directors, writers? Who are the people that you go, yeah, that's who really like?
I really love David Cronenberg.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Horror wise, something about body horror, and I put the body horror in this short. And there's also some Frank Henenlotter in this short. So both of
Hmm.
those were inspirations for this. Like Brain Damage and stuff like that. And Basket Case.
Hmm.
Uh, but
Oh, basket
I
case.
would I wouldn't say Frank Henenlotter was on the top of my list as far as inspirations, but for some reason he's just peeked in on this one. But I do love his work, and Cronenberg, John Carpenter, the early
Hmm.
Wes Craven stuff like Last House on the Left and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, I love all that stuff. Even I even get into some foreign influence, Takashi Miike,
Hmm.
uh, all kinds of stuff like the old folk horror from Europe, Wicker
Mhm.
Man. You know, those are my big inspirations. I'm really into folk horror. I'm on a folk horror kick right now. So I got the box set from Severin Films, and I'm almost through with it. I only
Nice.
got two more films left. A lot of odd things in there that I've never even
Oh,
heard of.
yeah.
What horror movie would you recommend to anybody right now? What's something you've seen recently that you think like, oh, everybody should see this?
There was a horror film that came
That's not
out.
your short, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple. There's a horror movie that came out a few years ago. It's called A Dark Song.
Hmm.
Have you heard of that?
The name is familiar.
I don't something about that
It's
movie.
pulling on me.
It was the weirdest thing because it's about a woman that's trying to contact her dead son, and she hires this kind of witch warlock guy to do a
Hmm.
ritual to contact the afterlife. But the entire movie is the ritual.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
that's
amazing.
cool.
And then the finale is awesome. It's like you just sit there in that slow pace build up of them. She's really got to go through the ringer to get her head in this space to contact the other side. It's not,
Hmm.
most movies are just like the rituals real quick and then the rest of the movie's all the crazy stuff. This
Right.
is all just the prep work of contacting the other side. And then when they get to the other side, it's really crazy and just amazing looking. Uh,
The visuals for when they finally get the contact are amazing.
yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I definitely recommend it. I know a lot of people didn't like it. It was too slow for some people, or not horror enough.
Mm.
There's no jump scares.
Mhm.
Oh.
Jump scares don't do a whole lot for me. I think it's kind of cheap.
Hmm.
Uh, and
Yeah.
I really don't like a lot of modern horror that does that.
Yeah. It's like my favorite slow one I've seen in the last few years was The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I
That was
thought that
so
one was
good, yeah.
very good with that slow, methodical pace through the whole thing.
Definitely.
Yeah. And any movie that's like I'm sitting there most of the time going, what the, but what?
Yep.
But in a good way, not like the hell is this? Yeah,
I
because
was gonna
there's
Well,
say
two.
even sometimes what the hell is this isn't a bad thing.
Right.
there's another one. I don't know if it's technically. I'm sure you guys have seen this one. I don't know if it's technically horror, but it was horror to me because I was the most uncomfortable I've ever been in a theater. Mother by Darren
Oh,
Aronofsky.
Mm,
To me,
yeah.
yes.
that was horror
Yeah.
because I was
Oh,
just
yeah. Without a
feeling
doubt,
dread
that's
the
a
entire
horror
time.
movie.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
I have really
definitely
bad
not
social
a.
anxiety. It was just all those people in the house. Just,
Mhm. And, like, they did not pull punches in that.
no.
No.
Like, the whole car thing, like, no. No. And then her
Ah,
going out to the car afterwards, it's just like, you can't tell me that that's not a horror movie. It might
Yeah.
be, like, a psychological horror movie, but
Yeah.
it's still a horror movie.
Yeah.
mhm. So we've been going for a bit here. Is there anything that if you're sitting down in front of a new horror person or someone that wants to get into the industry, again, I mean, we've touched on a lot of things of what you think they should and shouldn't do. What is the one thing you wish somebody had told you that you didn't get told before you got started?
Well, I think by the time I got to do film, I'd
Hmm.
already been through the ringer with wrestling. So I was
Uh-huh.
already expecting
So
all
start as a
this.
wrestler.
Yeah. It's like I've already been, been down a path that was similar. I mean, they're totally different, but they're also a lot alike.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Uh, but sometimes it can be a shady business. Depending on there's a lot of people doing this, and not everybody's great. I've
Mhm.
been
Hmm.
fortunate enough to meet some great people and have a lot of friends now. Uh, but not everybody's going to have that experience, and I know there are a lot of scummy people out there that will screw you over and put you in weird situations and stuff like that. So definitely be on your toes about who you're dealing with. Uh, I'm kind of gung ho and just went in. I didn't have a care in the world. I'm just like, I'll do whatever. I don't care. But fortunately, I was in good hands. But not everybody is as fortunate.
All right. Cool. And let's give some shout outs. You said Mother News and Buck Short. And
Yeah, Joe Stryker with the Casket Creatures.
yes.
We also have Martyr Films down in Waycross. We got Wages of Sin over in Augusta that I just filmed, starring. I don't know how much I can say about this because they kind of got a lid on it, but uh, is in that, aka I hope I can say
Okay.
that.
If
She
not,
was off.
let us know and we'll just cut it.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
in with me as well, so I had a pretty crazy scene with her. But yeah, who am I missing? I think that's about it right now in my current circuit. Oh, also Sean Ashley, Homicide McCloud. I'll give him a
Mm,
shout out too. He's been making some crazy films, in the same vein as Joe Stryker, but a lot different, a little
hmm.
goofier. And he's been streaming on Troma, and
Okay.
I hope to work with him soon. Uh, but yeah, I think that's it for the
Okay, cool.
rounds.
And if people want to see your stuff or just reach out to you or, hey, I've got a part. What's the best way for people to follow Jon Devlin online
Well,
or reach out to you?
yeah, I'm obviously on Facebook and Instagram. So Jon Devlin, JonDevlin. Or you can also find me through my wrestling name, which is Devlin Valak. Valak, of course, was from John Carpenter's Vampires. That's where I got
Yes.
that name. Uh, so either name should bring me up on one of those social media sites. I also have Devlin's Domain, where I kind of just promote other indie projects and boutique horror labels and stuff like that on Facebook. And I have a YouTube channel under Devlin's Domain as well, where you can find some really crappy movie reviews I did a long time ago, and some short films that I've made, monologues, trailers. I got a playlist of all my projects on there, so that I keep adding to, and hopefully I'll be adding for a long time.
Cool. Just have a seat in this alcove for just a moment. Again, I want to thank you for coming in. Is the seat uncomfortable? It's okay.
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Okay. Good. Good. Um, again, I want to thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure talking with you. As I said, following you on Facebook is a great deal of fun because, like I said, the watching the stuff, your dedication to the indie and the outre, I guess is the word they use, the out there cinema. It's really cool. I see some stuff. I was like, ooh, I need to check that out. Erin, you got that last brick?
Yeah, here you go.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming on, John.
For the love of God, it's the podcast of Amontillado.
Yes. Bye.
You have been listening to A Podcast of Amontillado, a production of Good to Be a Geek Media. Thank you for joining us. We hope you had a terrifyingly good time. If you did enjoy this episode, please tell your friends, then like, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you would like to support our efforts to explore all the dark, dreadful, and terrifying parts of the world, please join our Patreon, where you can gain access to behind-the-scenes material, backer-exclusive episodes, vote on upcoming topics, watch the video recordings of each episode, and other bonus content. Please visit our webpage, www.goodtobeageek.com/shows/APOA, where you can find show notes, host and guest bios, links, merch, and more. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, or suggestions for the host, please find and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or send an email to apodcastofamontillado@gmail.com. We are also part of the Good to Be a Geek Discord. Feel free to descend into the catacombs for a visit anytime. Opening and closing music is Softly Shall You Sleep by Valentine Wolf. Please look them up on your music platform of choice or at www.valentinewolf.com, and that's with an E. A Podcask of Amontillado is a trademark and copy of Good to Be a Geek Media. Logo and show art is designed by Erin McGurn. This episode was produced by Gary Mitchell.
This broadcast is presented in partnership with Good to Be a Geek Media. Let your geek run wild. The opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect those of Good to Be a Geek. To learn more about this broadcast and other shows in the network, visit goodtobeageek.com or find Good to Be a Geek on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at GoodToBeAGeek.